Okay, so we're going to talk about some fasteners today. The most common fasteners are just bolts, and we have some nuts that we're going to discuss. But a lot of us may lose a bolt, maybe a nut. We need to find out what the thread pitch size is, how big the bolt is, so that we find the correct bolt to fix our vehicle if we lost one or broke one. On the back of the bolt itself, you will see there is some lines. And anytime there are lines, this is a standard fastener. So this is a standard grade. This has 3 lines, it's a grade 5. So this is using the standard grade system in inches. So anything that has lines is SAE standard. You can see this one has 6 lines here, and this represents a grade 8. So grade 5, grade 8, no lines at all is a grade 2. So on the back of some of these bolts, you'll see numbers. If they're numbers, they represent metric grade sizes, and the number is a grade 8, number a grade 10. So based upon the grade, the higher the number, the more lines, the stronger the bolt is. So then that way it's stronger to hold parts together. So this is a stronger fastener than this one. 10 being higher number, and on the standard, this having more lines than this is a stronger bolt. So grade 8 bolt. So to find the correct size, we have this gauge here. This is the standard size. These are the metric sizes. And really all you do is you just grab the bolt that you are checking or replacing, and you just line it up with the hole. You don't want to have it loose, just a slide in and out fit here. This is a 7/16 diameter bolt size. So this one here, that's a grade 8, is the same, 7/16. So these are both 7/16 bolt sizes. Different grades though. This one that is metric, you can see we're going to line it up on the metric scale. So this one is a diameter 12, grade 8 bolt. And so we're just, first of all, grabbing whatever fastener we have, look at the back, see if it's metric, and then determine where it fits in the hole. And you can buy these little gauges online. They're fairly cheap, and just line up what size the bolts are. These are grade 10. And you can see the thread pitches are now different. So we have a coarser thread and a finer thread. You can go out and get a thread pitch gauge. What's nice about this is we have the thread pitch gauges on the back, and there's metric, and you can just line up the bolt according to the threads, and standard, we just line up the bolt according to the threads. We will show you on the thread pitch gauge here. This one gives us a lot more sizes. It ranges from 0.45 threads per millimeter up to 2.5 threads per millimeter. And most of my metric bolts on vehicles is going to be in this 1 to 1.5 thread pitch. So looking, just eyeballing this one here, it's a 1.5. I'm just going to light those teeth up, and the little teeth will go into the grooves. So this one's a 1.5 thread pitch. This one that's slightly finer thread pitch, I just line up the grooves there, and you can see the teeth is lined into each of those grooves. That's 1 1/4 thread pitch. So 1 1/4, 1 1/2, where it just sits in those grooves on the teeth, which is an easy way to check. The last thing that we need to find out is how long is this fastener here. So what's the depth of the fastener itself? This is a 20 millimeter size because it's metric. And then this one, measuring from here to here, is a 50 millimeter size. We can also use a ruler if we have a metric ruler here, millimeters. And we measure the same as 50 millimeter from the base of the head to 20 millimeter the base. So if I needed to find the correct length of bolt, the correct thread pitch, the correct diameter, I can use these tools to get the right fastener to fix my problem. So that's the way you kind of measure. You can have a measuring tape, a thread pitch gauge. We have standard metric thread pitch gauges. You can even get one of these, and we just look at the bolt diameter, the thread pitches on the back, and the length. We have a metric scale and then an inch scale. Moving on to the nuts now, you can see these little pieces here. So we just grab the nut, we see if it's metric or standard, and we just slide this on here. You can see that one is really loose. This one, okay, this one, these are all standard sizes. This is probably a metric size because it's not going on there, okay? Again, grab the nut. This is a 5/16 size. It just slides on there. It's not loose. We have a few different styles of nuts here that we've put out here on purpose. Okay, so this is probably a metric 12 because that's in between a 1/2 and a 7/16. So these are metric nuts, and you can see on the identification at 10, which is a number. So this, instead of having lines, these are metric fasteners, which are metric nuts. Same thing applies. We can use the thread pitch gauge to check the inner size of the threads. So what we've got here is just a standard nut. We kind of brought these out to show you the different styles of nuts used in automotive. So a regular nut. We have a nut with a sleeve on it. A lot of our suspension parts may have this little sleeve instead of a washer. Gives added strength. This has a nylon piece inside, that little plastic piece. This is a locking nut to keep the nut from breaking loose. That plastic nylon piece, when the bolt goes through, it locks the nut to keep it from rotating. We have castle nuts that we use, and we use cotter pins to slide through a bolt that has a hole in it to lock the nut so it doesn't rotate. These type of nuts here, you can see it has a little divot here after we've tightened the CV axle. Sometimes they don't give us a castle nut, and we would take a punch and hit this into a little groove on the bolt to lock the nut from rotating. And we may find a lot of these U-nuts where this slides in to a body panel, and this is a metal piece. We'll kind of use this as an example here, where there's a hole and then it locks. The bolt would lock through this little U-nut, so the threads would go in here. Some other nuts used are lug nuts. This is common on Chevys, where we have a plastic cap on the outside of this nut to keep contaminants out of the lug nut. It's tapered, so this is going to go towards the rim. This is just a standard lug nut where it's tapered going towards the rim and it's flat. We used this for years. We started going to some of these other styles of lug nuts. To find the thread pitch, we would use gauges. And you can kind of see we've went with caps. These are recessed rims where it goes into the rim and then this lug nut holds it on. A lot of our cars will have a lug nut with this tin on the outside, and these can swell over time. When we try to break them loose, these tend to round off. A lot of people don't like these. They call them swollen lug nuts. They'll try to remove these and replace it with the regular lug nut instead. So here we have our regular sockets here. All right, if I want to know what size of bolt, this is metric, and I can grab this and just kind of line it along here. This is a 19 millimeter. Okay, so knowing that metric fastener is going to be a metric size socket. If I have a standard one, I'll grab another standard one here. What is the head of the bolt? I'm not going to use the metric size here. I'm going to go over the standard, and you can see this one is a 5/8. So the 5/8 is the best size fit for my standard size bolts. So standard fasteners are going to use standard sizes here, and metric is going to use metric for the best fit.